Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Path of Me. I'm your host, Wendy Hutchinson. And today's guest is a beautiful woman, and she is a detox and cellular regeneration specialist. I'm going to have to read the list because she's a woman of many talents. Rockwood chef, Onyx, quantum energy practitioner, yoga and breathwork instructor, and I love this one, beacon of love dedicated to anchoring heaven on earth. Her name is Caileigh. I hope I said your name properly. And I just want to welcome you to the show. Thank you for coming on today, Caileigh.
Thank you so much, Wendy. It's an honor to be here and to be speaking with you. I've been looking forward to this for the past few weeks, so thank you for having me on.
I'm excited to have you join us and tell us all about your journey, and it has been quite a journey. So let's just kind of start at the very beginning. You were struggling with a lot of different health challenges, it sounded like, and was that from a very early age? Maybe you can kind of take us back and tell us how that unfolded.
Yeah, sure thing. So I was not a happy baby. I always start with that. Like, my parents did not see me like smile or laugh for the first few months until they took a trip down to Florida. I was born in the winter, so I was born in the cold in December, and they took to Florida and they heard me laugh for the first time. They were like, what is that noise she's making? They heard me like belly laugh, and they were like amazed. And so, you know, from this young age, I had this love of warm climates. My mom's actually, she's from Zimbabwe originally, grew up in Rhodesia, and so this warm weather runs through my body. And, you know, just as a kid, I was, you know, I was probably seemingly very healthy, happy, you know, nothing diagnosed. But starting around age 2, I started to develop eczema. That was pretty, you know, chronic on different parts of my body, mostly in different like joints, you know, like inner arm or back of my legs, like very typical places for eczema to form. And it was so bad at points that I would cry and beg my mom for a new set of skin. And
oh, God, that's so sad.
I know, as a mom, like, I'm sure that's like heartbreaking to hear your child like ask. And I can like tune back into that memory and remember feeling like there was almost a chance that she could make it come true. Like, I was like I couldn't believe that I had to suffer. Like, I just couldn't believe that was the.
You had a lot of physical discomfort. I know it must have been so miserable for you to have that at such an early age. And then you scratch, and then it gets raw. It must have been so tough.
Yeah, and like there was bleeding and all this stuff. So around age 8, you know, it wasn't always that bad, but it would flare up and cool and calm down and all that stuff. So around age 8, I was given topical steroid creams, which, you know, as I mentioned, my mom is, you know, the farm girl from Zimbabwe, didn't know much about like different medications, and really trusted doctors in the US, you know, who were more educated than her. So she kind of put them on this pedestal as, you know, anyone would in her position, and trusted them with her baby's health, you know. I was on those topical steroids for about 14 years.
Wow, that is incredibly long to be.
Yeah. It's really long. I didn't ever really realize how toxic they were. You know, on the tube it says don't use for more than 2 weeks. And I wouldn't use it every day, but anytime I had a little bit of redness, I would put on the creams. And there was almost never a bath or a shower that I would take that I would get out of and not like lather my body with some kind of lotion, not steroid creams, but always putting lotion on. A lot of dryness. Which as a detox specialist, I'm now understanding it's a lot of acidity in the body, a really backed up lymphatic system, which is like the sewer system of the body. So children inherit their mother's lymphatic system, who inherits her mother's lymphatic system. So there's a lot of generational energy, also karma, that's passed down this way for us to heal and bring back into alignment and to harmony. So, you know, around age 13, also 11, 13, I was very depressed. I experienced like suicidal depression, and I just like didn't feel any, I felt very empty, like there was no joy, I didn't have a will to live. You know, I thought about.
Do you think that was a combination of having this skin issue, but also hormones and just a bunch of things happening for you at the same time?
Oh yeah, it was definitely a lot of things, you know. I didn't have, my skin wasn't so bad around that age, but it was just a feeling of like, I just didn't see the point in life. I didn't feel like, you know, wonder. Like, yeah, you know, and then a few years later, my mental health improved for sure, but it was a really like dark period. And as you mentioned, it's a tough period for anyone.
Definitely.
Yeah. So starting around like age 18, I decided to go vegan and, you know, started to learn more about health and that, you know, we could choose what we put in our body. I literally never thought I had a choice, like what I'd put in my body. I didn't think food would have an impact on my health. Like that was just not something that was taught.
What inspired you to go vegan versus vegetarian, you know, to kind of ease into it? Because vegan it's a very strong discipline. So did you meet somebody who influenced you in that way, or did you read something, or what kind of led you down that path?
Yeah, it's a great question. My brother is pescatarian. He's 2 years younger than me, and my family and we all thought he was weird. We're like, why are you not eating like chicken anymore? And on his year anniversary of cutting out meat besides fish, we like made him chicken. We were like, and he was like, I'm not eating that, guys. Like, I'm really not going back. It was very funny. But you know, then my mom started to read more about plant-based diet, and my dad, and we all kind of decided to go vegetarian, vegan around the same time. And for us, just seeing the impact on the environment, on the health of, you know, eggs and dairy and fish and all these things, we were like, well, if we're going to cut things out of our lifestyle and change, we might as well just go for it. That was kind of
all in, it sounds like.
Yeah, I'm a very all-in person.
At least you had support. You had the support of your...
Oh, yeah. Support is...
Yeah, you weren't out.
Yeah, so I mean, my parents decided to go vegan, my brother and I, like all around the same time. And
wow,
there's very few other people I know doing that around, you know, 7 years ago. It wasn't as common. So it was, yeah. And I learned how to make really delicious food. So no one really cared that I was vegan because I would just always bring amazing food to places.
That's helpful. People don't need to know it's vegan. You can just kind of sneak it in there. It's amazing.
Exactly.
It's a conversation starter.
Exactly. I would host vegan like pancake brunches in my apartment in college and invite all my friends over and just like feed them every week. So nobody minded. They were getting free food.
Where did you go to school? Where did you go to college?
I went to Haverford College outside of in Pennsylvania, right outside Philadelphia.
Are you from that area?
I'm originally from Crownsville, Maryland, Annapolis area.
Okay.
So
that's awesome. So you graduated, I know that you gave me a list of what you graduated with, but I think anthropology and documentary filmmaking was your major, right?
Yeah, so I studied anthropology and documentary filmmaking was like my biggest passion the last 2 years of college, and I had a chance to study abroad in South Africa at the University of Cape Town as well. So
that must have been amazing. Were you there for a full year?
I was there for 6 months.
Wow.
It was amazing, yeah. And my mom's from that part of the world. I got to visit family and just, you know, there's nothing like cultural immersion, like to really understand or begin to understand, you know, what a country is like, what the whole social, political, cultural climate is there. And it's such an incredible, it's such a beautiful country. And there's also so many different dynamics going on in terms of like the cultural, political, social environment. So
what a great opportunity for you. That is amazing. And it probably shaped your worldview, even though you had that kind of cultural exposure from your mom, but to actually be immersed for 6 months must have been super cool.
It was awesome. And then the last month, I actually went to Zimbabwe and visited a lot of family friends and visited the farm where my mom grew up. And
really? That's so cool.
Yeah, I'd been as a kid, but I hadn't been back since I was like 5. And so that was amazing. And I have a lifelong pen pal who is
oh my gosh, that's great.
So I saw her and she was super cute. Yeah, it was a really special time. And it was 2012 actually. So it was a lot of like shifting and energy stuff going on.
2012 was such a pivotal year for whether people are aware of it or not. It was definitely a pivotal time for me. But I think a lot of us were starting to really start to come online at that time. It's like, wake up.
Yeah, I started to like realize that a lot of the emotional mental patterns that I had, like I started to see them more clearly and to see how they weren't serving me. And it was like projected in front of me, like almost in a movie. And I just didn't know what to do with it. It was overwhelming. Like I was just like, I couldn't process it almost. So
right, it's so hard when we don't have, when you're going through an awakening process, but you don't really have someone to guide you through it. So all this wild stuff is happening to you, you know, physically, emotionally, psychologically, consciously. And just remember when I was starting to go through all of that, I'd be like, why am I seeing that or hearing that? You know, I had nobody to ask.
right.
Walk up to somebody and go, yeah, so, you know, this kind of experience without them freaking out and wanting to put you in a psych ward. So did you have anybody around you to help you through that process?
Definitely not in 2012. No, not in 2012. And it was just the beginning of me seeing that things really weren't working the way that I was living. Like my actions weren't aligning with the life that I probably dreamed of. And it took me until I think I graduated college in 2014 and another year around 2015 to really like begin my spiritual journey more deeply. That's actually the year that I stopped taking these topical steroid creams. And I had this really powerful moment where I realized that what I was putting on my skin was just suppressing like my emotions and my everything. You know, it's just suppressing what wanted to come out, this energy that was
a huge realization, because that must have been so pivotal in you actually going deeper in. Because as a society, we're so used to taking a pill or putting something topical on, or we're always kind of looking for that quick fix. But really, the power and the healing is from going really deep within and looking at all the things presenting in our lives, right, emotionally, that we're kind of.
Yeah, amen. It's there's the Rumi quote that's like, the wound is the place where the light enters you. But
I love that one.
It's so simple and just so profound because, you know, as someone who had many wounds on her body, it's like,
yeah,
that was this catalyst where I was like seeing how much pain I had created internally. And, you know, some of it's karmic, some of it's inherited, but still it was mine to transform. Like I realized that I had to take responsibility for all of it. I couldn't push it away anymore. I couldn't say that's not mine or I don't want to look at it. I had to say like, come in, Shad, like come in everything so that I can, you know, like begin to like fine tune my consciousness.
So powerful. Wow. That must have been really life-changing for you.
Yeah. I had this moment where I had the tubes and I was like, okay, I'm just going to throw them out. And I was in my apartment. I lived in New York for about 2 years after college teaching vegan cooking and health, but my health wasn't doing that great. I didn't feel that great. And I just looked in the mirror and I was like, I'm ready to be who I am.
Oh,
and
I love that.
I didn't know like the spiritual affirmations. I didn't know anything like that. I just did it and I felt it. And as you know, those are pretty powerful. That's a pretty powerful declaration, you know, like sovereignty, power. So a little did I know what was about to happen.
Oh my gosh. You didn't know you needed to strap in.
Exactly. I was like, I didn't know I was about to go on a roller coaster ride.
Oh gosh, yeah. So what's it like for you? Tell me about the unfolding. Tell me how it all worked out, because that was just the very beginning.
That was the beginning. It really was. And so I stopped taking the creams and my body just like erupted in redness. Like it's called topical steroid withdrawal. A lot of people haven't heard of it. A lot of doctors even don't know about it. But basically the body becomes addicted to the steroids, and it messes with the adrenals, and there's too much cortisol, so you're kind of always in this chronic fight or flight stress mode. So I have anxiety, which obviously like it explains it all now back, but my body just was almost completely red. I would like lost all the skin. It would like flake and peel and ooze and bleed.
Oh my gosh.
Quite graphic.
How did you survive that? What were some of the coping mechanisms that you used to survive that? Because it was not only physically uncomfortable, it must have been emotionally uncomfortable. What were some of the tools that you used? I mean, did you have any at your disposal, or were you just kind of white knuckling it through the whole process?
Yeah, really good question. So the first few weeks I was pretty much white knuckling it because I didn't really even know what was going on. I just knew I'd stopped the creams. I didn't know there was like a name for this or that other people had gone through it. And so I just kind of went for it without having any knowledge, any preparation, which I don't recommend, but I guess my style. And then about 2 weeks in, my mom handed me this book called Warrior Pose, and I was open to reading it, and obviously it was just in pain, so I was like, okay, I'm just going to read this book. And it was all about this amazing man named Brad Willis, who healed himself from stage 4 throat cancer and a broken back through yoga and mindfulness and meditation and just spiritual practice. And he used to be this correspondent reporter, and it just goes through, and one of the most powerful moments in the book, he's like 50 years old, his family members gather for his birthday party, and he realizes they're actually there because they think he's going to die soon because his health is so poor.
Oh my God.
And his son reaches to him, and he's in a wheelchair, and his son reaches to him and says, like, his son's a 2-year-old little cute blonde boy, and says, "Daddy, get up." And he that's his moment of like, I need to change. So this book just like totally changed my life. It made me open to yoga and mindfulness and spirituality in a way that I hadn't been before. I was very like, not skeptical, but I just I felt like I didn't have time for yoga. I was like, I was a soccer player. I played in college a little bit, and I played my whole life. I was like, yoga's just like, I don't, it's boring, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. That's not a real sport. That's what I hear from people.
Yeah, I didn't get about the whole inner game. I wasn't understanding of that until the wounds and the light and all of that happened. So I started going to yoga class even while I was so uncomfortable. Like I was in a lot of pain, but I realized I needed to do something, and I couldn't just like sit around all day and be in pain.
Right.
I started going to a yoga class, and I just felt my soul like come online for like one of the.
Wow, that's amazing.
I was like, what's this? It's like this feeling of like love and peace and like something I've never felt like inside.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it was like, whoa, this is what I've been wanting. Like this is what people want. It's this feeling of like connection and
connection to yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
A deeper connection to yourself through yoga.
Yeah. And through that, I was like, I just started to become so into spirituality. I started to get all these books, and I had my candles and crystals, and I just started to really like dive deep into this whole world that opened up for me that I didn't know anything about, that I was never open to before. And you asked what got me through a lot of the pain. And it was this feeling of like being guided, like I knew what I had to do. And even if no one else could understand that or see it, obviously because it wasn't their journey, but I just like knew not in every moment, but for most of the times it was like I had that compass inside me. And as long as I aligned with it, I felt really energized and really good because I was following that like highest path. And those are the words I use now. I wouldn't have used these words now.
Right. You were just kind of guided to do and follow a certain path, and you really honored that at the time, right? It maybe a conscious spiritual experience, but you were on a path, and you were really, sounds like you were really honoring your inner compass.
Oh, totally. And
Which is cool.
Yeah, and I really cultivated faith. Like, no matter what, like I was in a relationship of over 7 years on and off, and he broke up with me like right when I went through all the physical pain. So kind of like my heart was broken. I was so sad, and I was just, going in a spiral. I'm sure you've been there with painful breakup where you're like, you make it worse. You just keep like.
Yes. You were already suffering physically, so they just added that emotional layer spring on top of it, which is so hard. I'm so sorry you went through that. But of course, our deepest wounds and our deepest suffering is where the most powerful growth and transformation comes from. We can really go there and allow ourselves to process through it. So it feels like you were just literally shedding everything. You were shedding your skin, you were shedding an old boyfriend, you were shedding your old self and way of being. It was like a very powerful, pivotal time in your life, it sounds like.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing. And I had to consciously cultivate this faith. Like, even though everything externally looked like a mess, I knew it was going to be okay. I didn't know when, but I felt like, I was like, I can do this. Like, I just had this rose, and I don't know where it came from, but it was there, and I just kept like feeding it, and I felt so positive. It was such a cool like duality between this like really painful thing, but also feeling like more purposeful and passionate than I felt in a really long time. So
I think that is incredible. You had this incredible internal spirit and drive that was just propelling you towards your future. That is so beautiful.
Yeah, and
like what was happening on the outside. That's just it's so amazing, is you had this whole dichotomy happening. Like what was on the outside wasn't reflecting what was happening on the inside, right? Well, maybe it was, because it was kind of a transformation, but it sounds really powerful.
Yeah, I listened to something today actually that reminds me of this. They were like, when there's like a house with termites, you don't actually know until the exterminators go in and then all the stuff comes out. So then you begin to see what was there. Mm-hmm. And wow, I began to see like all of this energy that had never properly, circulated and didn't have a place to express itself. And it was such a powerful time, but it took me years to integrate, and I'm still integrating, of course, like more and more of the lessons and more of those parts of myself that my whole approach now is really just like, we have all these aspects of ourselves, and when they are a divine expression, they're expressing themselves as a shadow aspect, but they truly are a divine quality. We just forgot to love that quality. And so it's up to us to invite it in, to sit with it. Like, I love the story about Buddha inviting Mara to tea. He's like, I'm going to invite my like biggest enemy to have tea with me. And through that love and respect, at least, you can begin to have more compassion and understanding. And so this whole journey has definitely enabled me to sit with myself in some of the most painful moments that, hopefully I wouldn't love to have them again, but I can say that I learned a lot from being with myself and not running away. In the past, I'd have pain and I would like try to like something else, like distract myself. And ultimately I realized like I couldn't distract myself anymore from my life. Like I had to actually show up for who I am and show up for life.
What a powerful realization, and what a great message. Gosh, I honor you for knowing that at your age and not really having a guiding you at the time. You were just really guiding yourself, which is the most powerful the most powerful thing to follow. Because I think our society is so programmed in society to kind of always be going external, right? Looking for a teacher, looking for a guru, looking for a master, looking for a book, looking for someone else to tell us what the right thing to do is. So I just want to acknowledge you for really having that internal compass at such an early age and really honoring it, and then, bringing yourself to wholeness and complete wholeness. It's just beautiful.
Thank you so much. That really means a lot. Like,
Yeah.
we all have a unique, amazing journey ahead of us, and the idea of a guru or someone to follow, it just never really resonated. I just knew that wasn't what I was meant to do. Of course, I've had so many mentors like that came later, like at stages where I was able to, probably better assimilate wisdom, and also better discern like what resonated, what didn't resonate. So I'm in no way here because I did it all myself. But
right, of course, we've all had a helping hand along the way. But what I'm really, really trying to convey when I speak to people and have guests on the show is that honoring yourself and your truth and your light is so critical in elevating you.
amen.
And taking you forward. So just hearing your story is so inspiring. That's something that you really, really took to heart and really changed your life, didn't it? In a lot of ways.
Yeah, I'm definitely not the same person that I was even a few months ago, let alone 3 years ago. It's incredible to see, and then of course have that reflected externally. I think it must have at least been a year. I met, my husband now, Brian, and like that was a whole nother journey and expansion and shedding in and of itself.
You have to share your how we met story because it's so beautiful.
Oh, okay, I'll do that. Yeah, so I was so heartbroken and sad, and then I moved through my pain, I embraced it, and then, probably around 8 months later, Brian and I, we actually met in in Jamaica. I was about to say Costa Rica, but we met in Jamaica. It was a family member, and who my uncle, and he arranged this trip of like family friends, and so I knew about Brian and his brothers and his mom, and that they were coming on this trip, but I'd met them once, when I was a little kid, didn't know much about them. And I just knew we were going to Jamaica to celebrate my cousin's graduation from college. And, I thought it was a very random trip. I was like, why are we going to Jamaica? Like, this is so it'll be fun, but didn't really have, I didn't feel anything about it. I just thought it was random. And, I'd always kind of felt that I would meet the person I was meant to be with, on some sort of long, at least a week-long trip. I just felt more comfortable opening up with people when I'm around them for multiple days at a time. I'm not a date person. Sure. Yeah, I can't really do dates. I'm I want to dive right into the deep soul talk. I'm not a small talk girl.
Right.
So we get to Jamaica, and Brian's family arrived a little bit after mine, and when he arrives there was music on in the house, and My Sweet Lord was playing, which is one of I love that song so much. And Brian arrives wearing this big flower lei, this Hawaiian lei, and it was so funny. And he just comes up to me, he's like, beautiful crystal earrings. I had on these moonstone earrings. I was like, oh, cool. And I didn't really know anyone else who liked crystals. I really was didn't know anyone else who's into spirituality, so it was a breath of fresh air. So we go to the beach, and we're all swimming, Brian and his brothers, and me and my cousins and my friends, and I look up at the sky and I'm like, oh my God, I see this shape that goes in front of the sun, and it's still nothing I've ever seen again. It's and it was this iridescent cloud that was all the colors of the rainbow in this big circle. And so I was like, oh, it's a rainbow circle. Everybody look. And Brian's jaw apparently drops, and he's like, just remember this happened. And so we're all it's beautiful, enjoyed swimming. Right. We get back to the house, and Brian tells us that earlier that day on the flight over, he wrote a song called Rainbow Circle, and it was also called The Clarion Call, which is also related to Onyx. Yes.
That's incredible.
I know. So he writes this song, and we just get out my ukulele, which I have here actually, and we just start like singing and like making up, with the words and the notes, just singing together. And from then on, I was definitely like, okay, something's happening here.
Right.
Yeah, and so that week we really just like pretty much fell in love and spent 24/7 together. And a few days in, we told our family members, but we the first night we just looked into each other's eyes, and I saw his face just shifting and changing, and like
Wow.
hand on his heart, and he was like, he could just feel like swirling, and we were closing our eyes and just seeing colors and bright lights, and I'd never experienced that before then. So it was like this very powerful, like, I guess you'd call it a portal, like this energy that we really opened up by being together.
So amazing. Wow. That's an interesting how we met story. Thank you for sharing. What year was that? 2016?
That was 2016. Yeah, it was around May. Yeah.
Okay, and then you guys, when did you get married?
So we that next year we just traveled the world. I was planning already to lead a yoga retreat in Peru, and so I invited Brian to join me and my business partner at the time leading that retreat, doing sound healing. And so, that whole summer we spent together going to festivals, doing sound healing, and really sharing that on the East Coast. And then we went to Peru and Bolivia and Colombia and led retreats in Costa Rica. And the final night of our retreat in Costa Rica 2 years ago, Brian, at sunset in front of the whole group, proposed to me. And I was like, oh my God, like I said yes, but I was so surprised. Like I did not think that we'd get married anytime soon, but of course I said yes. And we joked that we would wait like 3 years to get married. And then a few months later, we were like, let's just get married this summer.
Wow. Awesome.
And our families are supportive, and half my family lives in France. My mom's entire side lives there. So we actually got married in France last summer.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it was really fun.
That's so gorgeous. What a gorgeous story. And how did you find Marconic's energy? How did you become involved as a practitioner, and how were you introduced to Marconic?
Definitely. So right before I went to Peru, and it was still 2016, Brian was friends with Shanti. He'd like met her a few times. And I know she's been on and spoken. Yeah. Awesome. But he was friends with Shanti, and he heard about Marconics and was like, there's this thing called a recalibration. And he was like, do you want to get it? And I was like, yeah, let's do it. I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know what the price was. I didn't know anything. But I just, it just resonated. So, and I'd never actually done any other healing modalities. I wasn't drawn. I tried to do a Reiki training. I just wasn't that into it. So different. And I didn't know why consciously. Again, I'm just like into the path as it's unfolding. And we had our recalibrations, and then I went to Peru, and so much came up, like so much emotionally for me to release. And of course, there's a very different energy in Peru than Marconics works with. So I'm sure there was that going on. I didn't know as much about how to stay in like my own vibration. I'd always been quite empathic, but I also see now that empathy, like there's a really responsible way to use boundaries and to stick in your own heart. Like now I anchor into my heart, and of course like know a lot more about how on my energy. So
it's really hard to, especially as an empath, if you don't have someone to guide you in how to discern energy, protect your energetic field, and there's not always an awareness of how to discern and create boundaries for your field. That kind of like on-the-job training, I think, for a lot of us. Like nobody sat us down and said, okay, you should probably do A, B, and C to protect your field energetically, to practice spiritual hygiene and clean your energetic field. There's, I think, a lot of misinformation around that out there. So to get recalibrated and then go to Peru must have been a huge, like, what the like, what is going on kind of moment.
Yeah, I look back and I feel like there was discomfort energetically that probably didn't need to happen because of this. Yeah. So yeah, you said it really well. It is on the job training, and you learn what works for you. And then there's different things that work in different stages. And some things fall away and new tools emerge, and it's very interesting allowing that whole process to happen. So we found Marconics, and then it wasn't until a few years later, it was this year that we went through and did all of our trainings, and we're now set to do the teacher training.
I'm excited about that. Congratulations. That's so cool.
Yeah, we're super excited. So this year doing all the trainings was amazing, and the energy is so strong and powerful, and the stories that we had from sessions with clients, and even I'm consciously like, is anything happening? And then like afterwards we talk, and it was like it was like the most profound experience. So it's been a huge gift in our lives, and the community is so incredible. And just the possibility of the work, and Allison and Lisa and the team and everyone has just blown us away. So
you guys are going to be great teachers. I'm excited that you're taking it to the next level. And I think for those of you out there who aren't familiar with what Marconics is, Caileigh, maybe you can kind of explain a little bit about what it is and how it helps you on your ascension path.
Sure. Yeah, and feel free to chime in because
all the way.
there's so much to talk about. But basically, Onyx, to me, it's a fifth dimensional or higher frequency energy, and it allows each person, like we talked about, Wendy, to embody their higher self and to become their higher self embodied. And that integration can take a different amount of time depending on how willing that person is to let go of old habits and shift their life around. So quantum energy, so it means that we can actually work with clients worldwide for our no-touch sessions and our recalibrations, where we're actually uncapping the chakras, allowing the energy to expand. That has to happen in person. But with quantum energy, it enters your field, but then there is a linear amount of time that it takes to shed and to release and to move through the healing process. And so it's definitely one of the fastest tools that I've found for people to progress on their spiritual path. Everyone's different in terms of, some people will maybe hear things during their session or feel sensations in their body, or colors, hear messages. But ultimately it is really just about becoming that being where you know that you are the one making every decision, that you are the one in charge of where you focus, and that the universe is just merely bring back what you focus on and your vibration. So it's
definitely
cultivating
echo. There's definitely an energetic echo to the frequency that you hold.
Yeah.
So what we're trying to do through Marconics is raise your vibrational frequency to a level that is so high that you can really create powerful change in your life if you're willing to do the inner work and release all of that internal karmic debris that's holding you down. It's kind of like ballast, and then if you cut the ballast, you can kind of break the surface. Whereas if you don't do that internal work, then Marconics is an accelerant, so it really accelerates that process of cutting ballast by pulling like 51% of your karmic stuff back to the inception of your soul, not just this lifetime, back to the inception of your soul. It gives you such a leg up, don't you think? And
oh yeah,
you need to accelerate on your path. And the path, it's not a religious path, it's really the path to becoming the highest and best version of you. It's your path alone, and everyone is so individual in their path. It's not like we're there telling you how to live your life. We're just really accelerating the process for you, giving you a head start, don't you think?
Oh, that was an awesome way to talk about it. I love that's what I love about Marconics, is it's so individualized, and yet the protocols are pristine. They're like beautiful. It's almost like doing a dance. The work that we do, to feel how strong the energy is during the sessions. Like for me, it feels like a very cold ice bath wave through my body, but in the nice way, where it's just cleansing and purifying and really allowing, like it helps create more space within. That's what I love about like detox and Marconics, is more space in my life. And It is. Marconics is such an accelerant. Like, I actually can't emphasize that enough, because I'm like, meet people, and we started spiritual work around a similar time, and it's not like there's no one's above anyone else, nothing's higher or anything like that, but I'll notice that I was able to move through certain patterns faster, and I think that it's definitely because of Marconics and this.
Yeah, the frequency, if you're holding the highest vibrational frequency for yourself. And so what people don't really understand is other modalities, we're all running energy, but we're running in different bandwidth. So I kind of liken it to, radio stations. If you were to kind of define the bandwidths of energy, that's something easy for people to relate to. It's like if you were operating on an AM radio frequency, which would be maybe modalities that have been around for a long time, since before 2012, they're pulling on a certain and working in a certain vibrational bandwidth, harmonic bandwidth. And we're working in a different harmonic bandwidth. It's like satellite radio. We're still running energy, but we're running in different bandwidths. So the experience you're going to have with one modality versus another is going to be vastly different. I feel like the modalities that are older and more, drawing on the axiotonal A energy, which is the personal auric field energy in the healing, is focused more on healing the person physically. If you don't get to a place of alignment and internal work and find the courage to really do the deep inner work and shed the density from the inside out, which Marconics helps you do, those physical things are going to reoccur.
Exactly.
That's my personal opinion.
That's exactly true.
Yeah, if you're not doing the internal work, if you're not physically working to shed karmic debris, karmic things that are holding you back, then you are never going to have pure alignment. And Marconics is an ascension modality, not a healing modality. We're about creating alignment with the higher self to source, integrating the higher self etherically into the physical body. It's a much different kind of modality. I really have not been aware of anything else that allows a higher self integration and gives you that kind of alignment.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I feel really lucky that Brian didn't really, he's done a lot of sound healing work, which with his crystal bowls, and now we've really shifted to Marconics energy. What he would do with the bowls before is entrain people to their higher vibrational state, and then if they couldn't hold that after the session, then things would come back. So as people would experience, perhaps healing or going away, or clarity, or beautiful vision, but if they couldn't maintain that state afterwards, then it doesn't stick around the field. And so I think it's really important that you discern between the ascension modality and the healing modality. And what I love always reminds me of is like healing really just means wholeness. So like restoring yourself to wholeness. And Marconics, it's also kind of like the blinders come off. Like you really see a lot about yourself. You see a lot about.
That's an understatement.
I want to hear more of your stories about the blinders coming up.
Oh, God.
This will be a 2-hour-long episode today.
I know, right? I know. It's really interesting.
Yeah.
I would just say my consciousness expanded. Like, it didn't just expand. It, like, exploded. Stuff was happening that I could not explain. And after I got through the shock of it, understanding of what I was experiencing, feeling, knowing, all our abilities start to just come online. I think people who are kind of drawn to it are already kind of intuitive, or they're, people drawn to it are already healers in some capacity. Not everyone, but a lot of people have gifts that are drawn to energetic healing modalities, right? But being plugged in and having a recalibration, then I went on and had an IM merge, which was an even bigger process. There was a definite, amazing period of growth, just as far as my healing and alignment, you know. I mean, just saying like psychic abilities doesn't really begin to sum up what happens to you after you get recalibrated. Wouldn't you agree? It's very
definitely. Yeah. And there's certain things where it's like, oh my God, like you're like, it's too much, it's too much.
Yeah. What is happening? Why am I seeing this? But you know, that's what we're here for. That's what we as practitioners are here for, is not to just like plug you in and then send you on your way. We're here to offer support and you know, help you through the process, because a lot can happen, especially if you're an active seeker. You are always looking to learn and grow and become a higher and better version of you. If you get recalibrated, your world is going to change and you're going to just accelerate the process. So thank you for sharing that, you know, your Onyx experience. I want to get to your work that you're doing as the minutes tick down, but I wanted to talk about how you're coaching people through, you know, diet, cleansing, and detoxing. And so let's kind of talk quickly about how you found this aspect of healing work as well.
Awesome. Cool. So what I love about detox and cleansing is it's really about, to me, restoring people to their divine template and to their divine blueprint. And there's a lot in our food, our water nowadays that is perhaps impure. I mean, we can, you know, be more Onyx and do that to help raise the vibration of the food and the water and the juices that we drink. But there is a certain level of toxicity in the environment. And so just cultivating awareness of that and helping people make mindful decisions around what they put in their temple, and really beginning to form a relationship with our body where it is this temple for our consciousness. It's this like incredible technology. Like this is our most amazing technology on the planet, is our bodies. They allow us to do everything and to expand and just enjoy life. And so from living with so much pain, I became so passionate about helping people really reverse chronic pain. And I became very passionate about raw foods and juicing, and really the power of hydration, how when we restore this flow and this properly structured water that comes from fruits and vegetable juices and raw foods into the body, people can have these awakening experiences as well, and really raise their consciousness through bringing more light. Because a lot of this fruit, this juice that has these light codes, it actually, they like measure the vibration of different foods, and fruit is the highest vibrating food, and it's grown high up on the trees, and so it's absorbing all those light codes, and then you take it into the body, and it's actually one of the most karmaless foods, right? Because it grows, it ripens, it falls into our hands or onto the ground. We eat it, and then we plant the seed by consuming and then releasing it. This really lovely cycle of nature. And so when I think about food, I'm always kind of looking to nature and looking to anatomy, and anatomically we're very similar to primates in terms of a diet of fruit and greens and some nuts and seeds, helping us thrive. Eventually, I do think we're headed towards just pure light, and that's what we really are, but it's a really good transition. I
think it's amazing that you're offering this at this time. It's such a perfect time to be encouraging people to really honor their bodies and the things that they're putting into their bodies. Because I feel like majority of people are kind of unconscious about what they're consuming in general. But you're probably really helping a lot of people to heal a lot of physical pain and probably a lot of other things. Maybe you can speak to that really quickly.
Yeah, definitely. We work with clients a wide variety of spectrum of things, but we've seen clients get off anxiety meds, depression meds. Really, of course, they're reducing inflammation, lymph nodes that were like rock solid, shrinking to the size of peas, like normal sized. And just, of course, you know, we work with clients with skin issues like acne and all of that stuff as well, eczema, and just seeing that clear up and seeing people have that energy to live their lives again is like it's such fun work. You know,
well, I can tell you're calling because you're just radiating light. Of course, you're a light being anyway, but I can see your passion when you're talking about this. So
yeah.
Ask you what your website is so we can put it below and people can find you if they're interested. You can work with people all around the world.
Oh yeah, we've got clients in Bali, in the UK, in the US.
Amazing, amazing. So what's your website so we can drop it in and people can find you?
My website, and my husband and I do all of our sessions together, so you get 2 of us detox specialists, which is really fun. And I do want to emphasize that we are holistic in terms of we're very big on transition. So we don't just put someone straight on fruits and veggies. We really support them and work with them to understand their unique constitution, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, physically. That's very, very important because no 2 people are the same, and we have to honor their unique journey like we've talked about. So that's a very important part. And we also do readings of the eyes, which we can maybe talk about on a future interview, but iris analysis to understand the map of the soul, and all of the inherited karma and emotional, spiritual, mental blocks. It's very, very cool practice. So
I've never heard of that. Yes.
Oh my God.
Another show so we can go deeper there.
And you will love
spiritual conversation, but I wanted to definitely make sure people knew about how to find you because you're just beautiful work. And not only that, but you know, obviously more chronic distance sessions are available, but primary focus.
Yeah, so the website is Give Joy a Chance. So for Onyx or detox or you know, anything that has to do with iris analysis and helping you cleanse. We also lead group cleanses. In January we'll be doing a liver heavy metal detox, so people just join online and they can do it from anywhere in the world, and we provide the support, and it's super, super fun. A good way to kickstart the new year.
That's great. If you have the dates, we'll drop that in so people can sign up, and that will be January of 2019.
Yes, it'll be the 1st to the 14th.
Ooh, a 14-day thing. Awesome.
TV cleanse.
Caileigh, I'm going to wrap it up here, but I always ask my guests to share some wisdom or knowledge that has really helped you to move through adversity, and maybe there's somebody out there who's kind of struggling right now and they could benefit from hearing something from you that helped you in your life, you know, you journeyed through.
Yeah. Okay. My biggest piece of wisdom is just don't rush the journey. Like, there's no destination that you need to be at right now that's anywhere other than where you are. And I didn't know that was going to come out of my mouth, but that feels really resonant because I personally lived a lot of my life in the future, thinking about what was next and planning, and all of our energy gets sucked away. We become almost lifeless when we live in these other moments that aren't the present. And so to bring your light back in, just come back to now, bring your energy into the present moment, and just enjoy the journey from this place. There's nowhere else you need to be. You're not behind, you're not ahead, you're just here. And from that place, from that feeling of just anchoring into your heart, like you do so beautifully, Wendy, the whole world expands, the whole universe really expands. So just, and from that place, we can let go of shame and judgment and begin to understand our patterns from a place of compassion. So don't keep picking your wounds, just accept them, allow them to heal, love them. They're going to heal when you love them rather than when you try to pick them apart. So
So beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. That was such a beautiful message. Well, I'm going to wrap it up here to my audience. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I hope you will check out Caileigh's website and pass on her information if you know somebody who could benefit from going through her program, her health program, and also check out more Onyx if you have a chance on her website. I hope you'll have a beautiful day, and I love you all. Take care. Bye.